Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Don Odell's Legends. I'm Art Tipaldi, the editor of Blues Review magazine, the largest blues magazine in the world. Tonight you're in for a real treat. But first, here's a trivia question for you. Since the Blues Foundation began its Blues Music Awards in 1980, what performer has accumulated the most nominations? Nope, guess again, you're wrong. Nope, not him either. With 47 nominations, tonight's guest, Joe Louis Walker, leads the pack. He has more nominations than B.B. King, Coco Taylor, and Buddy Guy. Joe comes from a musical family in San Francisco. There were always soul and R&B records playing in the house. His mom played so much B.B. King that Joe told me, I almost thought B.B. was my daddy. At 16, Joe was living the life of a musician in the Haight-Ashbury section of San Francisco. He already had his musician's card, and he was backing legends like Lightnin' Hopkins and Mississippi Fred McDowell. In those days, he was playing with John Lee Hooker. He met Magic Sam. He was playing with Earl Hooker. But his biggest influence at that time was rooming with the great Michael Bloomfield. Joe calls Michael Bloomfield one of America's great blues guitarists of that era. In those days, Joe was hanging out with Michael Bloomfield. He was meeting people like Steve Miller. He was meeting Buddy Guy. And then at a party one night, he met a guy who just come back from England and was ready to strike it big, Jimi Hendrix. In 1975, Joe discovered gospel music, and he began touring with a gospel group called the Spiritual Corinthians. That gig lasted about 10 years, when the blues called Joe back in 1985. From that point on, Joe began his journey on a recording history. In 1986, he recorded his first blues album, Cold is the Night, on High Tone Records. That got him his first blues music nomination. In that time, Joe Louis Walker and his band, the Boss Talkers, began traveling around the country. I first saw Joe at the Beale Street Music Festival in Memphis in 1993, when a friend said, "You don't know who Joe Louis Walker is? You got to see him." After the show, I went to the CD tent and bought every Joe Louis Walker disc I could find. Today, Joe has well over 20 CDs in his library. His latest two CDs, Witness to the Blues and Between Rock and the Blues, have both garnered BMA or Blues Music nominations. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy tonight's show with Joe Louis Walker.